Live from the headquarters of Common Sense, this is Common Sense Christianity. As always, I'm your host, Ethan Foster, here today with another episode. So, guys, testing out some new technology here. We got my friend Troy.
Yo, what's up?
Yeah, to talk with us about his religious beliefs, and I guess we'll have hopefully an interesting discussion about our different religious beliefs. So, Troy, introduce yourself to the audience and tell us what you believe and why you believe it.
All right, so yeah, my name's Troy. I'm 15, and I'm actually polytheist. So I don't think that there's one essence controlling everything. There, like every single minute detail. It makes more sense to me that it's like multiple things. Like there's a deity for each, element of your life.
Okay, so that's interesting. So is there like a particular religious name besides polytheist that like sums it down? So like for example, I'm a theist, but I believe I'm a Christian. If that makes sense, is there like a specific religion pertaining to this? Because I don't know much about polytheism, to really get down into your specific beliefs.
Like it sounds stupid, but like the closest thing to what I believe would be like Greek mythology because of like
Yeah.
the multiple and like I do believe that there's one overarching figure that's keeping everything else in check.
Okay, so you believe like a bunch of like little gods, and then there's one big G that controls them to make sure, if I'm
Yeah, like
understanding correctly. All right, that's interesting to me. I've never met someone with this belief, so I'm glad you came on because I thought you were an atheist or something. So I'm like, all right, let's go and have another atheist on the show.
uh,
So I love digging into this, and I do this with atheists too. So don't think it's pertaining to you. So, can you provide any evidence for this belief, or does it just make sense to you?
well, my evidence comes from like personal experiences,
Okay.
like the stuff that I've had to deal with.
All right.
It's not like super serious, like heartbreak and
Mhm.
loss of loved ones. Like I don't think that it's like one overarching figure trying to give me
Yeah.
character development. I
Yeah.
think that like I might have upset this deity
Mhm.
and they were friends with this other deity, like they were connected, and then they
Okay.
took out their wrath upon me and I had to pay the consequence.
All right, that's interesting. You bring up personal experiences, and I discuss this with like LDS missionaries because I'm very skeptical of personal experiences, and don't take this the wrong way. Um, because for me, if I have a personal experience and that relates to my God, then what's to differentiate between the two? So like why is my personal experience leading me to this God and yours leads to your gods? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
I maybe it's because you are your personal experiences, you are trying to cope with things that have happened to you, so you are trying to approach your god and
Uh-huh.
ask them for forgiveness or whatever it may be,
Yeah.
but that just doesn't necessarily pertain to what I personally believe.
Okay. So is there anything that would convince you otherwise that would make you change your mind of whether there's a different God, you're believing in the wrong gods, or if like an atheist were to try and convince you that that God doesn't exist at all, what would change your mind?
Well, I used to be atheist and I've gone to many different churches. I've gone to Jewish
Hmm.
churches. Well, not churches. I've gone
Yeah.
to Mormon churches, Catholic churches, Baptist
Mhm.
churches. Like I just like experimenting and going to different churches and experiencing different religions to find out what I actually like, what I truly believe.
Hmm. So
And
so
so I'm open to any conversation.
all right, all right. So
And if
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I'm open to any conversation. Like, if you can change my mind, then you can like change my mind. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so open to anything.
All right.
Like I have my set ideals, but like I'm open to talking.
All right, that's what I like to hear from someone, because I get really annoyed when people are like so close minded and stay in their inner circle, which is my main uh, problem with the LDS faith, right? Because they like staying in their own circle, and people in the Christian faith do it too, and it bothers me a lot because
Your audio is cutting out.
it is. Is it better now?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry
Yeah,
about
it's
that.
fine. Like it like skips an entire sentence.
Oh,
No,
for
you're
real? I hate it when it does that. I'll talk slower and see if that helps. But yeah, I generally think of myself as open-minded in that sense. But for me, to convince me of it, I need some sort of evidence to prove me wrong or prove you right, in a sense. I know you can't prove a
Yeah.
negative, but it comes down to
Yeah.
the point to, like, for example, I don't think Joseph Smith is a prophet because this, and this can't be proved historically, or historically, it was proved that something else happened, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
for you to convince me, I would need a reason to first not accept my current beliefs, but second, convince me that you're right about something.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
That's the way I am. Like
hmm
if you were to tell me that Pastafarian's the right religion, I would need
Yeah.
concrete evidence. If you were to tell me that Judaism is the right religion, I would need
All right.
concrete evidence to change my mind.
hmm So let's just start with God, for example, because this is the big question. So you and I can agree that a God of some sort exists. All right.
Yeah.
So we don't have to sit there and discuss that. But it's the nature of God or gods that we have to talk about here. So I believe in the triune God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, one God, three different beings, like a fraction. So what would get you to necessarily accept that God instead of an endless amount of gods?
Well, I like I said earlier, I don't personally believe that it's one overarching figure,
Mhm.
like critiquing everything down
Yeah.
to the smallest minute details, down to like the atomic level. Like there has to be like a god of earth, a god of wind, a god of the sun, a god of the sea, like god of storms, or like god of fertility, god of like nature. Well, not all of nature, but
Yeah. Well, and see, here's my thing with that. So we have scientific explanations for all of that. So like storms, you can explain that through meteorology.
yeah.
The sea, explain that with all different types of science. So why should we accept a God instead of just instead of saying that there's a God over it? Why can't we just accept science? The scientific explanations over that require no God.
Well, that's where all like atheists come from. That's where I used to come from.
Yeah.
But you see, we wouldn't be here if there wasn't some overarching figure.
Yeah, you're
Like
right.
the chances of us being here are so astronomically low.
You're
Like the
right.
chances of the Big Bang even happening are so astronomically low. Like nobody knows how that happened.
Yeah. And you know, that's my thing with it too. That's the main argument I provide with the teleological and the cosmological arguments, right? The argument from design. But for me, and the question I just asked you pertains to specifically. Let's just take the weather patterns in Utah, for example. Why does it snow? Well, because this and this and this happens scientifically, right?
Yeah.
You can demonstrate this. You can experiment with it, right?
Yeah.
So for me, if you can do that, then I don't see the reason why God is required. And I know atheists in the comments will probably point this towards me too, but I have ways of explaining that.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm posing this as a question to you.
So I believe that there's a god of the mind, and
Okay.
he gave humans the ability to sort of decipher what
Hmm.
they do. Like the god of storms, he's not like poof, there's a storm. He has to
Yeah.
cooperate with the god of wind, the god of water to create those storms. Like they all have to coexist.
Yeah. All right. Again, that's interesting to me. I've never had a conversation with a polytheist like this, but I stress the question that I am asking right here and right now, that if we have an explanation for snowstorms and for the weather patterns that happen, that is purely scientific, that requires no God, then why should I turn from that and believe that there is a individual God for that?
Well, like what I was going back to, the god of the mind, he gave humans the ability to like sort of decipher, and he gave us the ability to conduct the research and the experiments that we do so
Hmm.
that we can sort of put it together. But like we don't know why the westerlies move to the east from the west. We don't know like why certain wind patterns move. Well, we do, but we don't know like why the atmosphere, like how the atmosphere is like perfectly thick but also perfectly thin. We don't know.
Well, I get where you're coming from, and for the atheists out there, that if this video gets a decent amount of views, there will definitely be atheists commenting, and they'll probably say imply God of the gaps, right? They give that objection to me all the time, and I have a video on it. So if you're in the audience, go check out that video. But so that's what I'm gonna imply here. Because if we have something that's not explained yet, that does not necessarily mean that we can inject God in there, which is why I'm very careful with my arguments with God. I say because there's a design, there's a designer, not because we can't explain this design that there's a designer. If you get
Yeah.
the difference.
Yeah, so like but I don't believe that there's like one god of wind per se. Like there is a god for each wind pattern. Like there's a god of the westerlies. There's a god of the equatorial winds. Like there's
Mhm.
so many gods that everything just fits together and meshes so perfectly to every minute detail.
Yeah, but couldn't just one individual God perfect that individually?
I believe that at first he could be like, okay, this is how it's set, but I don't think that he could be able to maintain all of it because he has to look at because he would have to look at his creations per se. He'd have to look at the oceans, the land, how the atmosphere is doing, and everything like that. And I don't believe that one deity, one entity could do that for
Mhm.
eons and eons and eons.
Well, okay, that's a bit reasonable, but what if, in my specific belief, I think God created and let nature takes its course, and then interferes when He needs to, right? So why couldn't God just do that? Like leave the Westerlies to do whatever they need to do, and
Yeah.
then uh, if something needs to happen, He interferes with it.
Yeah, I feel you.
Hmm.
Like if something needs to happen, let's say that humans, us, are doing so much to pollute the world that he brings in a virus, hence shutdown.
Yeah.
And already there is so much good in nature that is coming. Like,
Hmm.
but how would he know exactly what virus to do? Like exactly how to make it, exactly how it's transmittable. Like that's why I believe that there are certain gods. Like there's like like god of birds, god of aviary gods, like that transmit it. Like the wind, like the gods of the wind.
Hmm.
They kind of move it along, and that one overarching figure is just conducting everything like a maestro.
All right, all right. And so I see where you're coming from, and this is very hard to have this conversation. And this is the thing I bring up with most people I talk to, when it comes to just religion in general. So we come from two different worldviews. Now you can't really disprove or prove a worldview, right?
Yeah.
I could just make up something off the top of my head. Let's just say Santa Claus is the god of the North Pole. I could just say that, right?
Yeah.
Now you can't disprove that, but I don't think you and I would believe that for
Yeah.
our own reasons.
Yeah.
So that's a hard thing with this conversation. That really interests me.
I believe in so much, and you like so many different things, and you believe in like three set things: the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit.
Well, yeah, but it's not even necessarily that. What bewilders me in a sense is that we have a scientific explanation for this, this, and this, right?
Yeah.
And then you still believe that there is a God of the individual parts of nature, which is fine. You could believe what you want, but for me, I can't see that. I can't see that happening.
Well, that's where we differ, and our experiences in life and our views on everything differ.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing with experiences, which is why when I talk to atheists, I'm not like, well, God help me through this, this, and this, because that's not fair.
And then they could come back with, well, then why wouldn't he help me through this, this, and this?
You're right. But it's also experiences are personal, and depending on your certain experience, you can apply that to whatever religion you want.
Yeah.
Like Malcolm X, for example, claims that he had a vision of Allah, I believe, or the Prophet Muhammad. I'll have to check back on that. So he converted to Islam, right? But that doesn't make Islam true. It could have happened to him individually. It could have just been a hallucination or something. So if I were to say I saw Jesus, could be a hallucination. The brain plays tricks on you. So for me, when I talk about this stuff, I talk about nature. I talk about the universe. I talk about objective facts that lead to me coming to the conclusion of a God of some sort, and then looking at the Bible and individual major world religions to come up with, well, which religion is true, right? Yeah. So that's where I think you and I differ a bit, because personal experiences won't do it for me, and it won't do it for most people out there that might be watching this.
All right. Yeah, I know exactly. Well, I don't know exactly how you feel. I just, I feel you. But like me personally, I think that we are not alone in this universe. And with my belief, there is a God. There are gods for this planet. There are also gods for the planet Mars, gods for the planet Jupiter. And there's endless possibilities. And those gods could have come together and be like, all right, humans are here. Why not create a different landscape and see how this does in comparison to humans?
Okay, like aliens?
Yeah.
Like, all right. So this is kind of an interesting conversation to have regarding that. For me, I just think of the pure chances around the whole universe, out of the trillions and trillions of planets out there, and out of the trillions and trillions of stars too, that there probably is life out there. Do I think it's intelligent? Maybe. I don't know. That's just a mystery. I can't guess on that because I don't have the information to guess on it. But for me, I definitely think there's some sort of like microbiology out there, like bacteria and stuff out there.
Yeah.
But I don't pertain that to God necessarily. For me, I think God could have created that, but I think his individual purpose was to create Earth, right, and sustain Earth, because we're his creation. We were made in his image, so we're the most important, right?
Yeah.
So that's just interesting to me. I think nature could take its course in that, but honestly, I'm not sure with it. I'm willing to have my mind change on aliens and stuff.
Yeah.
So do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, well, I should have written stuff down. Like, this is
same here.
My head.
I never write stuff down for interviews.
Like, so how would you personally explain how all of these little minute details fit together? Like, how all of the organisms coexist together? How come there are no tigers in North America how there are no rhinos in Russia.
Okay, so with that, with where animals are, I explain that by evolutionary processes
All
and the
right.
continents moving itself.
All
So,
right. Yeah.
so I don't know if you believe in evolution or not, but
No,
I
I
do.
do. I do. I do.
Okay, so a lot of Christians don't, but I've come to accept it, right?
Yeah.
So we have Pangea, what, 250 million years ago, and as it splits, certain animals were on those certain continents. And what I was just learning in biology class, speciation, where like the species can't reproduce with each other, so they change with their own groups on those individual places, right?
Yeah.
So they diversify in their own ways. They're not going to evolve the same way. So it's like with Australia, there's animals there that are different from anywhere else in the world
Yeah.
because of the speciation happening on those individual places. So with that, I give credit to natural selection and evolution and God guiding the process. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
feel you.
So that's how I feel with that. Now we can talk about the specific details within like the first life, or how God created this entire universe perfectly so we would exist. I'm
Yeah.
willing to have that conversation.
All right. Let's hop into it.
All right. So if the Christian belief is true, God is omnipotent, he's omnipresent, he's everywhere and all knowing, all good, all loving, right?
Yeah.
So if he's all that, then he's a really smart guy.
Well,
So
if he's, did you say all loving?
all loving.
If he's all loving, then why are there people that that are, let's say, 6 years old? Both of their parents died. They live in
Uh-huh.
the slums, and
Yeah.
nobody cares about them. Is God
Uh-huh.
just doing this for character development, or is he
No,
doing
no,
this
no, no, no.
because he cares about certain people less than others?
So this comes down to biblical theology, and I've had this conversation many times, and it's hard to grasp. So the Christian belief of it is, I'm sure you've heard of Adam and Eve, right?
Yeah.
So we live in a fallen world. Humans are in rebellion with God because of our sin. So imagine this. Dr. Frank Turek gives this example. I encourage you to check him out. He gives this example. Imagine you were trying to ask a girl out or something.
Yeah.
You bring her flowers, cards, gifts, whatever. You ask her out, but then she says no. What are you going to do? You can't force her to love you.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you.
So if she rejects you, then you just step aside and let it take its course. So now relate that to the universe. God sends us Jesus. He sends us the Bible. He sends us these prophets. And yet a lot of us still reject him. So what does he do? He leaves us alone. And the alternative to God is the devil and his world. So the devil is pure evil, right? So
No,
us not
if you think about it, he's punishing sinners. He's punishing the sinners for eternity. Therefore, he's not that bad.
well, what? Who? The devil? The devil's not that bad.
If you
No,
actually think about it, the way that I'm
he's going to
thinking
be
about it.
punished for eternity too.
Yeah.
So so he's not punishing anybody. Now he's on this earth. He rules the earth in a sense, and tempts people to sin. Now it's still our personal choice, but it's like how you'll listen to a politician try and get your vote.
Yeah.
God and the devil are in this constant Trump versus Hillary thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that if you think of it. So yeah, for me, when it comes to the problem of evil, humanity has rebelled against God, who is all good. So the alternative of all good is all evil. There's no middle space in this category.
So it's either you side with God and you are, there's nobody free of sin, but you try your hardest not to sin, or you're on the very other end of the spectrum. You're a terrible person and you only side with Satan.
So no, let me try and clear this up. So you say you either side with God and try not to sin. So the problem is, if you sin once, God cannot be in the same presence with you. You can't be in the presence of God. So that's where Jesus plays in here. So when Jesus comes, he says, I will take on your sacrifice. I will take on your burden. The problem is, a sacrifice requires some sort of punishment. So Jesus has to die. And
Yeah.
this you can trace all this tradition back to the beginning of Judaism when they sacrificed lambs and the most perfect animal, and which is why Jesus is called the Lamb of God, right?
Yeah.
So by Christ's sacrifice, he sacrifices the punishment for the world. He experiences the pain we would have experienced on the cross. So that is the just punishment. So we can accept Christ because he had no sin, so he didn't have to pay the debt, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a debt forgiveness program. I use this example a lot. If you have a massive amount of student loans, you have to pay. But what if you couldn't pay them? So there's a forgiveness program in a sense. Christ pays your debt.
So I hear this all the time. Christ died for your sins.
Mm-hmm.
And then people, I've talked to Satanists, and they say, if you don't sin, what did he die for then?
Well, that's the problem. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. That's what Paul said. That's the problem. This is common sense Christianity, as with some. Are you hearing my voice again?
Yeah.
From the beginning. That's weird. I don't know what's happening. Is it fixed now?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not hearing the start.
All right. So did you hear my question? Well, my response, I guess. So Paul said, for the wages, no, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, right?
Yeah.
So there's no you didn't sin. You've sinned. And there's a lot of sins in the Bible. I believe, what is there? There's like over 600 laws, and there's probably more sins after that. So it's pretty much impossible.
So
not
if
to
he
sin.
died for your sins, why not care and just sin away?
Why not care? Because you have to be punished. If God is all just, then he has to punish you. There's no getting out of it. So he either punishes you or he breaks his eternal moral principles. Because another thing to understand about God, there are certain eternal principles that apply to God. So, for example, God cannot sin. It would it's not in his character to sin, so he cannot sin, right? So that's the same thing. He has to punish us for our sin. So instead of sending you to hell for all eternity, there is an alternative because Christ paid the price that we had to pay.
So if everybody sins, if you are in the stages of hell,
Mhm.
you are in lust. Yeah, there's a limbo, lust, gluttony, avarice, and there's avarice, wrath, heresy, violence, fraud, and treachery.
Uh-huh.
So if you are in limbo or lust, like, how extreme do you think that punishment would be for you?
Look, so as far as I know, and I could be wrong, the punishment in hell is equal. God doesn't punish more sin over less sin. It's all equal.
So if you are in limbo, if you are like Homer, you are getting punished the same as Judas.
I believe so. Now I could be wrong.
Then
But
why not just
I
go
do
all the way?
Because well, I don't know. You can make that choice. Like that's a personal choice. I wouldn't because I don't want to go to hell, right?
Yeah.
And that's not why I do good things. I think I'm a good person. But the Bible says none is good except the Father, right? But I try and be a good person, not because I want to go to heaven, because works don't get you to heaven. That's the main flaw with Mormonism. It's only Christ that gets you to heaven. So the reason you don't go all the way in is because, well, what do you want for yourself and what do you want to do for others?
Yeah.
But, go.
I was just gonna say, if others aren't going to help you, why help others? Why be the good Samaritan if nobody else really cares?
Well, personally, I might not do it, but it's there's so many verses about this, and they're they're flying away from me. Um, but for me, it's like it's just the right thing to do, right? It's like how Martin Luther King, when he was trying to get equal justice, he could have been like Malcolm X and just wanted to separate black and white people, not have to deal with them. But instead, he was caring, he was loving, and he was forgiving towards those people just because it was the right thing to do. It's like how Christ, when everyone was laughing and mocking him, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, right? It doesn't matter. If I was him, I'd be cussing them jokers out. If they were putting me on a cross and spitting on me and tearing my clothes and casting lots for them. But it wasn't the right thing to do.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
Like I have a sense of right and wrong. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm going to do what I feel is right. I'm going to try to help people when I can.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I've talked to so many Christians about beliefs, but my beliefs have jumped around, and finally I feel like I've landed on something that I truly believe. I started out Jewish, and then I converted to Christianity. I was a Mormon, and then Catholicism, and then Judaism, and then I was an atheist for about 3 years, and now I'm polytheist.
Okay, so with Mormonism, I know Mormons love to consider themselves Christians. The majority of Christians don't consider the LDS faith a Christian faith because of many things.
Yeah. They're like the redheaded stepchild. You are like the redheaded stepchild of Christianity.
Yeah, I guess. A lot of Christians don't like me for the things I say. It's mostly about my beliefs on science and evolution. All right, dude. So do you have any more questions?
Why not tackle some more controversial topics?
All right, cool. You got to bring them up because I have none right now.
All right. 1, abortion.
Okay, abortion. You want me to discuss my views on that?
Yeah.
So my personal view on abortion is that it is immoral, it is murder, because I do believe at conception that it is a individual human life. I do think that if you have experienced a case of rape or your life is in danger, then an emergency abortion should be performed if that's your choice. I do not like Planned Parenthood. I think Planned Parenthood is evil and is just in it for the money.
All right. My views are very, very similar to yours. I believe that life starts at conception.
All right.
And that abortion is murder unless you are raped or you are going to die when you deliver the baby.
Yeah.
And so when you are... I believe that if you are going to die, you should, I guess, as soon as you find out, you should get that baby aborted. Even though it's immoral and it's murder, if you are going to die, there is a chance that baby will also perish.
Yeah. But for me, and this is like the argument that a lot of people make for abortion, right? There's like the people get raped, life in danger, but there's such a small minority that's like, really, you don't care about that. You just care about implementing your agenda.
Yeah.
And using the vast minority to justify it.
Yeah, and a lot of people say like, "Oh, it's the woman's body. It's her choice." There is a body inside of that woman.
Exactly.
There is a human being inside of you.
And then they play the fact that we're men and we won't ever have to have a pregnancy.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of hypocritical.
But think of it. You are about to be a father, and your partner, your wife, is going to die if she delivers this baby. You're going to be like, okay, even though this is immoral, I don't want you to die.
Yeah. I mean, there's justification in that.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't want my wife to survive if she was about to die from having a baby. So, yes, I would let that happen. And we could just adopt someone because there is plenty of kids that you can adopt and put in a happy home.
Yeah, there are plenty of children that are in need of a loving home.
Mm-hmm. So not much we disagree on there. Any other controversial topics you want to talk about really quick?
Uh, you said you don't want to get into politics, so I won't go. I won't go there.
I said specifically. So like when it comes to like me endorsing someone, I don't like talking about that
I
on
was
this.
just gonna, I was just gonna say right or left.
Well, I am more right. I think that's obvious. From the way I talk on this show, but I'm very accepting of other people's views.
Like it's weird because I have super extreme rightist beliefs, but I also have super extreme leftist beliefs.
Well, what's your leftist beliefs on?
I believe that the LGBTQ plus community deserves all of the same rights as
Well,
us.
that's not a leftist belief. That's a libertarian belief. I
Yeah,
believe
true.
they have the same rights to do whatever the heck they want. But it's when you come into my church and want to dictate to me what scripture says, that's the problem. That
Yeah, I'm more libertarian. Like
yeah,
you do you as long as you doesn't interfere with me.
exactly. That is my problem with some people on the left. And I say some people, I'm not saying the vast majority. I have plenty of family that's on the left and plenty of family that's on the right. I know
Yeah,
these
yeah.
both perspectives. And for me, some people are so like, oh, you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're this, this, and this. And it's like, well, you're just shutting me down from having conversations. My whole point of making this YouTube channel is to have an open conversation about religious things that some
Yeah.
people may not be
Yeah.
able to have, right? That's
Yeah,
why I
yeah.
have you on. That's why I have Hannah and Gabe on my podcast. That's why I have everyone that has different views than me on, just
Yeah.
to promote conversation. And that's a problem sometimes.
Who do you think is your most reoccurring guest?
Let's see. It's either Cameron or Hannah.
Cameron or Hannah?
Mm-hmm. It's probably both of them.
Yeah.
Because Cameron is like, I consider him as an associate of this because he participates in it. He's helping me write the book and stuff.
You didn't tell me you're writing a book.
Well, I mean, I don't discuss it too often, but here, I got a bit of it right here. And I use it as like a resource if I like don't know something. I just look through here to see if I wrote it
Yeah.
down. But yeah. All right, anything else, dude?
I was just wanting to talk about equal rights actually, but if you don't want to go there, we don't have to.
We can. Equal rights for what specifically?
Men and women.
Men and women. I think it's gotten to the point where we have equal rights, but it's just the constant bickering of these third wave feminists just yelling and blabbing on about stuff, right? So it's getting crazy in our political climate to where we can't have open discussions about anything anymore.
The First Amendment is slowly dying.
Well, yeah. And I honestly, if it dies, I'm just going to ignore it. Like, I cannot lose my freedom of speech. That is one thing that I am like, you will not mess with that.
And you personally, your freedom of press, because you are a form of press.
Yeah, well, I guess, but the First Amendment is very important to me, and it's like some people that I've noticed have tried to use quote unquote hate speech to suppress it, but they'll call anything hate speech. I'm sure you can find someone that will be like, for me, talking about homosexuality is a sin. It will probably be like hate speech, but I'm like, you can still be homosexual if you want. I have friends who are homosexual. I treat no one differently unless you're just pure idiotic, right, Troy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, but my views is that these days it's so much more frustrating and so much harder to be a male than to be a female.
Well, I know it's a lot harder to be a male, but I think go ahead.
Like men have to deal with, the whole boys don't cry and tough it up, be a man. Mm-hmm. But we also have to deal, and then we tough it up and we be a man, and we try to be a gentleman. We hold doors open for people, and they're like, no, I can do it. I can hold doors open for myself. Women have said that. And so I hold back and I say, oh, okay, you can open the door for yourself. Sure, go ahead. And they're like, oh, chivalry's so dead. Like, we have to find that perfect middle ground to, be viewed as the same. But me, a straight white male, I have, everybody hates on me.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, their anger just goes straight towards the middle,
Yeah.
which is,
Yeah, and I get what you're saying. I still think it's harder to be a woman than a man just because of the certain biological things you have to deal with. I
yeah.
do think that like traditions are disappearing with some
No,
of
like I was talking about in culture, like physically,
like
yes, being a woman is much harder.
yeah.
I was talking about
Well,
culturally.
yeah, and I can see that to a certain extent, right? I'm very careful with this. I like staying straight down the middle and trying to see both sides of it. For me, it's like sexual assault. Let's just take that. The
Yeah.
Me Too movement was a great thing when it came to men need to stop sexually assaulting women.
Yes. Yes.
Problem is they politicized it. That's the whole problem with it. So they go after people unequally. So Trump, he's committed sexual assault. We all know that. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't deny that. But then Joe Biden, he's done the same thing. No one's reporting on it. That's my problem because there's a hypocrisy.
I don't even think Joe Biden knows he's done it because the man has dementia.
I wish the man the best of luck with him talking. It's kind of hard to listen to him sometimes. But yeah, it's just with that. It's like it's so unequal with the reporting because they politicize it all.
Everything nowadays is politicized.
I know, and that's the problem, and it's why our country is so divided. The right, I can't even talk. The right wing media and the left wing media does the same thing, and
The right wing makes the right wing the heroes and the left wing the villains. Left wing does the same thing. They make the left wing the heroes and the right wing the villains. That's why I try to watch CNN and Fox News.
yeah.
Like,
Well, I generally don't watch Fox News because it's just like I agree with them more. So it's like let's try and watch something else. So my general news outlet is CBS, which is not like as left as CNN, but they are still further left. I listen to a lot of NPR just to get that balance because I listen to people at the Daily Wire like Ben Shapiro. Then I'll listen to a bit of Steven Crowder. So I try and balance it out so I don't get too far one way. You know what?
all right. Yeah. And okay, what are your views on veganism?
Veganism, it's funny. I gave on the YouTube channel one time. It was a few weeks ago, and some vegan that's an atheist started getting on to me and saying, "How can you be Christian and support all these oppressive industries?" Which I could never live as a vegan. I love hamburgers. I love steak. I love all that. And again, it's like you do you. If you want to be a vegan, that's fine.
Yeah,
Just
I have
leave it
nothing against vegans. I have everything against Facebook and Instagram vegans.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're a vegan. Chill. Don't post about how meat is bad and how people that eat meat are murderers. No, it was already dead when I went to the store and bought it.
Yeah. And the thing is they equate humans with animals. And it's like we're not
No.
equal. We're not
Yeah,
even
like
close.
I was talking to a vegan and they came up with the point, if you raised an animal and you viewed it as family and you had to choose between that animal dying
Hmm.
or a human dying, what would you choose? I was like, I would choose the human.
Well,
Like
the animal dying.
the animal dying. Like if I raised a dog and it tried to kill let's say a child, I didn't raise that dog right.
Hmm. Yeah.
And go ahead.
Yeah. So for me, it's like I have a puppy, a miniature schnauzer, right? His name is Ned, and we got my sister Maya. Both get on my nerves, horribly. If I had to choose between what I would choose my sister, I love my dog to death. He's a turd though. If I had to decide, of course I would choose my sister surviving because she's different from an animal. Of course, humans are animals, but we have a larger value, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. But where do you draw the line on what's something you look at and you're like, oh, that's adorable, and what do you eat? Where do you draw the line?
I draw the line of it's hard because look at China, for example. They love their dogs.
They eat
Eh,
everything.
Yeah, and they abuse them so much, and it's really sad to see. But here in America, that's kind of
It's quite
hypocritical.
inhumane.
Yeah, yeah, because you have like chickens
We
that
eat
are
three
put in the,
animals. We eat cows, chickens, and pigs. That's the main three animals we eat.
yeah, but it's also it's not so much as us eating them, it's how their lives are. Like GMOs and like yeah, let's take GMOs for example. They modify the chickens to be so big and so fat that they can barely even walk, right? And they're in these big monster farmhouses and are all clumped up. And same thing with cows,
Yeah.
and it
There's
is sad to see.
two extremes. It's like facilitized, and then there's green roaming pastures. The
Mhm.
ones on the pastures, usually it's a more expensive meat
Yeah,
because it's free range, it's all healthy. But the ones that we go to the store, the hamburger that we go to the store and buy to
yeah,
make not make sausage, to make whatever,
yeah.
that's those cows are raised in a facility
Hmm.
to be killed. There
Yeah,
are animals that are birthed to be killed.
yeah. And it's really sad. I hope that one day we can figure out a way to where we can let the animals live a happier life, and we can still eat as we choose. There needs to be a balance between the two,
Well,
and that's one thing I hope capitalism will produce someday.
yeah, there are so many vegans that I met that are so against capitalism. I don't get why they're mad at capitalism because, if you're socialist or communist, yeah, the money gets spread, but it's less money. Like capitalism, you
Yeah,
work,
yeah.
you get the money.
That's the thing. Socialism, I will be critical of whether on this channel or my political channel. Well, podcast. I'll make a channel for it soon. Because the thing is uh, what communism and socialism does, it takes people's money and makes everyone on an equal poor level, except the people in government. It's like when Bernie Sanders talks about paying the fair share. Well, I mean, he's a multimillionaire. I don't really want to hear it from him.
Yeah,
And he owns 3 homes, right? He's living better than me. I live a good life, but not a Bernie Sanders life. I'll trade
yeah,
Bernie.
yeah,
But yeah, for me, if you want the solution to things, it's not the government that will create the solution.
it's
It's the
you.
free market and innovation that creates it.
The good thing about capitalism and the U.S., we have stocks, we have
Yeah,
cryptos worldwide. But capitalism, you go out, you do the work, you get the money.
yeah,
Like it's like the more work you do, the higher up you get, and therefore the more money you get. So it's all
yeah,
on you and your work ethic.
yeah. And I hate it when people say they need to pay their fair share. They don't owe you anything.
Yeah,
You, and they socialists support capitalism. I mean, I listened to this conservative Mark Levin. I just listened to him yell at callers because it's pretty funny, and like a socialist will call him or something. He said, "Where do you get your food? Where do you get your clothes? I assume you don't have your own garden, your own farm, or anything." And he is so right about that. It's like you complain about capitalism, yet you go to the grocery store, which most grocery stores like Walmart are owned by rich multimillionaires. Um, you you'll get a package delivered from Amazon or something. You have an iPhone. You have this and that. Everything in your house is because of capitalism, and that's my problem. It's such a hypocritical thing.
yeah. Well, if everybody needs to pay their fair share, it's not going to be the rich pay as much as you. It's going to be you pay as much as the rich.
Yeah. And the rich pay a lot of taxes. Of course, there's tax loopholes, which of course we should close and have people pay their fair share. And it's like, well, why can't we find a middle ground on this? You have people on the far right that are like, well, let's take away healthcare, completely privatize it, and then you have people on the far left, like Bernie Sanders, that say, well, let's end all private insurance and make it all government. Well, you have me here where I think, well, if you can pay for private insurance, pay for it. If you want government insurance, and you can't afford private insurance, then the government should provide a basic health care for people who can't afford it. I mean, that is so common sense for me, at least.
Yeah.
I don't get what the debate is about, but people are so hyper partisan that they won't hear the other side, and that they want to stay in their own circle of politicalization.
Or like me, my mom is is in insurance, so private insurance is how I live.
Well,
So
same here. It's like my parents were in the military, so we have USAA, for example. Like, you're not taking that from me and putting it on someone that didn't sacrifice 4 years to be in the military,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, my
I feel
parents
you.
went to Iraq and all that. They sacrificed to get,
Yeah,
well, and it wasn't for insurance, of course. It was
it was
mostly,
because they love the country.
well, yeah, and plus they wanted to pay for college. But it's like it also comes to personal choices. If you don't work hard for your position in life, then why should I have to pay for that, right? And that's not the case for everyone. But if I were to be like a straight F student and not try in school, eh, and I end up working at McDonald's for the rest of my life, well, whose fault is that?
Yeah, like I feel you. It's your fault. The amount of effort that you put in let's say school, you
Mhm.
put in a ton of effort. You get straight A's. You're a straight A student. Let's say all throughout high school, you go to a good college. The
Yeah.
better college you go to, you still have to get good grades in college. But the
Hmm.
better college you go to, the more chance of you getting a better job.
Yeah, but the better college you go to is also more expensive. So it also comes down to like, well, if there's a cheaper school that's less known that provides the same education, then why not go to that school? Why do you have to go to Harvard or Yale or something when there's some other school that provides the same degree? You
Well,
know?
yeah, like with me, I play sports,
Hmm.
and I play football. If I try my hardest in school, get really good grades, I try my hardest in football, and let's say a 3.5 star recruit.
Yeah.
I could either get an academic scholarship to a
Yeah.
school or an athletic scholarship,
Yeah.
and I would judge my choice based off of the scholarship that I would get. And let's say that I do get a scholarship. Let's say I get a scholarship to Utah Valley University. That's the
Hmm.
only one I get. I'm taking that because it's free education.
Yeah. And of course, it's all about it. Well, it may not be the choice you want, but it's still a choice. Like for me, if I cannot grow to this YouTube channel, to the point where I can make a decent living off of it, making more videos and spreading my beliefs and my views on things to people online, then I'm going to become an airline pilot, right? And becoming an airline pilot is hard and expensive. That's my choice. I could do something else, right? I mean, I'm an A and B student, so I got the resources to choose a variety of careers, but I love flying planes, right? So that's my personal choice. But if I can't afford that, if I take out $100,000 of student loans to do that dream, that's on me. That's not on anyone else.
Yeah, I feel you. Like our views on many topics are the same.
Yeah, it's just a whole religion topic that we have totally different views on, which is
Yeah,
fine. Free country, right? Uh,
yeah.
we need more religious diversity in Utah. All I know is LDS people that can't stand me whenever I criticize their
Well,
organization.
so I looked up the stats. Utah is 40% LDS,
What
20% atheist, and the rest is a mix.
I'm
But
pretty sure the 40% is active LDS. It's 60% considered LDS.
yeah,
Yeah. Um. So yeah, Utah's very LDS, but especially up here in the northern, closer you get to Provo, the more LDS it seems to get. The closer you get to Salt Lake City, the less LDS it gets, right? So we're smack dab in the middle in South Jordan.
all right. So I just looked it up, and I was so wrong. So 73% of Utahns are Christian, 22% are unaffiliated, 4% are in non-Christian faiths, and 1% don't know.
Yeah, so remember that Christian is mostly LDS, and they consider statistics consider LDS as Christian now. Of course, most Christian organizations don't consider them that. But that's just a difference of opinion right there.
Yeah. So let's switch the subject. Let's talk about, let's say, video games. Do you believe that video games cause violence?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't played video games in a couple months since my Xbox is broken, but I've never felt violent towards anything playing Call of Duty. Now, I think some people, it could affect them, but in the end, I don't think it has any major play in the rise of mass shootings or something.
Yeah,
right. Change.
And I thoroughly enjoy metal music, and like metalheads, that's what we're called, I guess. We've been scrutinized forever because people listen to our music and they get enraged, and then they end up shooting up schools. That's not how it is. It's not the music. It's not the choice of games that you play. It's the person. It's also the people around that person. Like if a person has mental health problems, they need to seek out help.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. It's an interesting conversation to have. Anything else, Troy?
No.
All right. Thank you for coming on, bro. I appreciate it. I thought this thing was going to last for like 10, 20 minutes. We're almost an hour in. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of Common Sense Christianity. Make sure you subscribe, like the video. Go check out our other videos for great content on religious topics. And until next time, I'm Ethan Foster here with Common Sense Christianity. And Brock.